really nice, first of all, to see so many people here again. It was getting really sparse. I missed last month because I was in Arizona, so I had a good excuse. But what I'm going to talk about tonight is, it was labeled as animal communication, but it's more about animals as messengers. And the first thing I'd like you to do is, in order to communicate with the animals, we need to get into our heart space. So what I'd like you to do is close your eyes and take 3 deep breaths. Take a long, slow, deep inhale, and then long, slow exhale. And that takes us out of our thinking mind and into our heart space. Take that long, slow, deep inhale and let it out. Let out all the tension, all the worry. Just let it go. Okay. Now what we want to do is think about a white light that is coming from the universe down into the top of our head, coming down into our spine, into our heart. And we're also going to connect to Mother Earth. So I'd like you to imagine yourself as a giant oak tree. And from your feet, send your roots down into the center of the earth. And in the center of the earth is a ball of light. And we're going to ask Mother Earth for permission to connect to her. And then once we do that, we're going to wrap our roots around this ball of light. And that's going to ground us deeply to Mother Earth. Okay, so now we're grounded. And we are in the heart space. And from this, we can now connect to the animals. So I just recently finished, you can open your eyes if you'd like now. I just recently finished a program. I've been studying with a lady by the name of Ana Maria Vasquez for 2 years now. She's a multi-sensory intuitive, and her specialty is animals. Although once we learn to connect with energy, everything is energy. We feel solid, but when you break us down to the very smallest elements, we're nothing but little balls of energy. And I know that Sean and Renee have talked about energy and these little balls that we are. But I've been studying with Ana Maria for the last 2.5 years, and last fall she came up with a program to certify, most people call them animal communicators, but she called it intuitive energy trackers. So because everything is energy, it doesn't matter what type of energy it is, whether you're connecting with a human, whether you're connecting with an animal, whether you're connecting with a tree. It's all energy. And so we had to complete 40 readings. And so now those of us in our class are now able to provide readings for others, to be of service to others. So, am I unique? No. Every single one of us in this room has the ability to connect and talk to animals or to a tree. And so, how do we do that? First of all, we have to connect. We have to get down into our heart space. And you all heard of mental telepathy, correct? Mm-hmm. So it's the same thing. You're just connecting from, it's like when you're thinking of somebody and you get an email or you get a phone call from them, those thoughts are going from you to that other person. So it's the same thing with an animal. An animal can connect with you as well. And it used to be, in the ancient times, it was common that humans talk to animals via telepathy. They talk with each other and they talk with animals using telepathy. But what's happened over the years is man became superior over animals, and animals became of service to them. And so the connection that we had with animals has been lost for the most part. And it's become even more lost because of the, with all the electronics and everything, people don't even go outside anymore. The only reason they go outside is to go to their car, to go into the store, to go to work, to whatever. But as they're walking, do they notice the butterfly that just flitted by? Do they stop to smell the rose? Do they notice that a crow just flew overhead or that a deer bounded across the road in front of them? Most people don't. A butterfly could even land on somebody and they don't even recognize it. So we've lost how we communicate with one another, but also with animals. And Native Americans also connected to animals, and when they had their vision quests, animals would come to them in their dreams during their vision quest, and the animals, depending on which one, could be a power animal for them. Each one of us has what's referred to as a power animal, and that is an animal that follows us pretty much all of our lives. So if you have a particular animal that you have an affinity for, that is your power animal. And you can have usually one or two power animals. Then there's also what's referred to as spirit guides. And those are animals who cross our path in unusual ways, such as you could be driving down the road and you see a coyote off in the distance. So if that may not mean anything to you. However, if that coyote crosses the road in front of you, really makes a point to get your attention, then that animal is trying to bring you a message. Or if you have a hawk that swoops down in front of your vehicle, or if you're out feeding your animals, what's been happening with me a lot recently is geese are flying low, and they're coming low and they're coming often. So that's a sign for me. So there's several ways to learn what the messages are. There's books out there that are available, or you can even go online and you just type in, let's say, goose totem, and there will be links that come up, and you just read what the bird means or the animal means, and then look at your life and see how part of it will resonate with you, mean something to you, and part of it may not. And that's okay, because it's not everything, not the full meaning maybe for you. But if you look back over the last 3 to 4 days, a week, and see what the message means, you'll see that they're definitely trying to bring you a message. How can they bring you messages? They can do it in other ways too. You could be walking around Walmart and somebody's got a shirt on with horses, okay? And then you go home and you turn the TV on and there's a program about horses. That's another way for them to let you know that they're trying to bring you a message. So what does horse mean? Horse means freedom. So, and with goose has to do with communication, and they also have to do with not leaving others behind. So does anybody in particular have an animal that has been following them? Do you have statues in your house of particular animals?
Well, for me it's always been the cougar.
Cougar.
And blue heron. Just yesterday, we were walking down the driveway, and all of a sudden I got kind of flying in my hat. I thought it was a wasp, and I kind of turned my head to the side, and then it flew around and landed right on my shoulder. It was a dragonfly.
A dragonfly.
Yeah, and I've always had that happen where they come and land on me too.
So do you know what dragonfly means?
Messenger of the spirit.
Pardon me?
Messenger of the spirit is.
We're also about transformation, because if you think about how the life of a dragonfly, They live in the water, and then they metamorphose, and then now they're flying bugs, you know. So so look in your life to see if there's some transformation going on. Does anybody else have a particular animal?
I don't know if I can talk,
You
but
can.
I'll try my best.
Okay.
I had two that I read going to Native American things where one was the turtle.
Turtle.
Became one of my spirit helpers.
Uh-huh.
And a lot of times I felt like I'm going someplace
Uh-huh.
and there's a turtle in my way, or there's something going on that learns. It's part of my feeding, and the turtle gets a lot of criticism from people. White people, I mean, the Indian people really like the turtle.
Uh-huh.
And the other one with us, we had for a long time a friend of ours called my other spirit helper was a dove,
Okay.
but it was crippled. And every time I would feed the chickens and everything, this dove would light out there. And some of the lady told me that she's one of my spirit helpers is also. So for many years, that crippled dove would come to my
I
house.
agree.
And she would
Chills
refer
went
me.
through me, so yes. The dove is definitely your spirit guide.
Yeah.
Yeah. So dove has to do with your inner peace, and maybe asking you to bring inner peace into your life. Does that resonate with you?
Yes, in part that my ancestry goes back to the bird family, bird clan.
Okay.
My great-great-grandmother was can't call it now. I can't say it words, but it's not from
That's okay. So thank you for sharing that, Ronnie. Does anybody else know of their spirit guides?
What about hawk? What does that mean?
Hawk? Hawk is, we can look up hawk. Hawk is, one thing about birds is they are connecting us to two realms. The realm of, well, sometimes three realms. Sometimes the realm of air, of course, because they can fly. Most birds can fly. Then also the ground. But then you have the bird like the great blue heron, which is also a water bird. So connecting you to the realm of water as well. So, but we can look up hawk. Hawk, one of the things about hawk is, you know, how they soar. So, it's having you look at your life from a different perspective, from a higher perspective. Because here we are down in the forest and we're trying to weed our way through the trees and we get lost in the trees. But if we were a hawk, we could fly above the trees and see which way we want to go. But we can look up hawk too, just to give you a better idea.
I'm into hawks too. I've been having last 2 years. Hawks have been lighting in my yard, and I've been getting pictures of them. They're been getting closer and closer.
That's cool.
That's a good sign.
That's a good sign, yeah. Okay.
They didn't see your gun. They didn't see the gun in your hand.
I had a camera in my hand.
It wasn't a buzzard, was it, your thing?
No, it was a hawk. Beautiful hawk.
Buzzards are actually really good.
What was it? Renee, you said, was it a red-shouldered hawk you said it was? Yeah, red-shouldered hawk.
Red-shouldered hawk. Vultures actually are about transformation and rebirth. Because if you think about what the life of a vulture does is, you know, they're eating carrion, but they're also creating new life by eating that. They're taking away the dead and decay, but they're bringing new life as well. with their babies.
And also learning how to just flow with the currents and soar to higher
Right.
levels.
Right. So what this says is that if Hawk shows up, it means you're caught up in too many details. So step back so you can get a greater perspective on the situation. Stay alert and focused on the task before you, eliminating as many distractions as possible. These are all different meanings. So you just kind of have to read them or listen to them and see if it means anything to you.
What is the name of the book you're using?
This one is Animal Spirit Guides by Stephen Farmer. And then a lot of people like Animal Speaks by Ted Andrews. And I can pass these books around so that we can look at them if you like. Or the other way too is just go online and type in the animal and totem behind that, like hot totem, and then you'll get a whole bunch of links. So another meaning could be spend some time observing and studying the situation, and when it's time for action, make it quick and decisive. So you think about a hawk, how they're sitting in a tree and they're waiting to decide when to pounce on the mouse, you know. They want to do it at the right time because otherwise they're just wasting their energy if they're just going for no reason. Pay close attention to your surroundings as you're about to receive an important message. Be aware of any personal or psychic attacks and be prepared to defend yourself. Hawk with their claws. Stop trying to change others or the situation and work instead on accepting things as they are. So, and then it talks about when to call on Hawk. And if Hawk is your power animal, it talks about that as well. So most likely Hawk is your power animal because it's showing up so much. Is it always showing up in your life or just recently?
No, just the last 2 years I've been lighting in, at first they were lighting on posts a long way from the house and in trees fairly near the house. But recently they've been lighting just within maybe 10 feet of the back door in the yard.
Wow.
Same, I think it's the same one, you know, it's the same hawk.
See, the other thing that's really important right now is the animals are really wanting us to connect to them because the earth is in really dire straits. Man is destroying the earth in so many different ways. And because of it, we've thrown the ecosystem completely out of balance. It's just like, in one of my Facebook groups, somebody wrote that in British Columbia, they're going to do an aerial shooting of wolves, 200 wolves, because they're blaming the wolves for the killing of the caribou. But they're also mining oil up there. So who's to blame? Most likely it's the human, but the wolf gets blamed. And so now they want to go in and decimate the wolf. So, it's really critical for us to connect to the animals and do things to help them. Just like the animals that are used for our foods, you know, the horrible conditions that they live in. And how can we do that? We can do that by the food that we buy, because that's voting. If we buy foods that are organic or range animals, then we're supporting farmers, the small farmer. If you can, buy from a small farmer. Buy your eggs from a local farmer. Buy your sheep and your lamb and your beef from your local farmer, because they're taking care of their animals in a more respectful way. They're not being fed in these huge feedlots where disease and how they're treated very poorly. And so we can help the animals in that way. They do have what's referred to as a sacred contract. So the animals that are in these feedlots have taken on the role of being in that position. But that doesn't mean that we have to continue to allow that. And we can ask for animals to be treated in a much better way.
What was that term, sacred contract?
Sacred contracts.
What does that mean exactly?
It means that we have a contract. They have a contract with us, and we have a contract with them. So it means that they have accepted the role, say like the farm animals or the animals in the feedlots. They've accepted the role that that's how they're going to be used for consumption. But we can help them and by not buying meats that come from that situation, because eventually, if we quit buying it, they're not going to put it on the shelf anymore, and they're going to find a different way to take care of the animals. And more and more people are getting where they're, eating free-range eggs and free-range chickens and free-range turkeys, and not supporting. Every time you buy, you're voting. People don't realize that, but we are voting. And so, does anybody else have any questions?
Are you also recommending that we consider growing our own food?
Most definitely, because, you can get me going here. Because of all of the chemicals and stuff that are in our food, Roundup especially is poisoning us every day, and it's in everything. Yes.
I have a mockingbird that visits me when I'm working in the flower field.
Mockingbird? Okay, let's see if we can find Mockingbird for you. We do. Okay. So if Mockingbird shows up, it means sing, whether by yourself or with others, and don't worry about how it sounds. So if you're out there if they're out there gardening, sing. Don't worry about what anybody else thinks. He's gonna love it. He'll sing right with you. Okay, it's time to bring forth one of your inner talents and share it with others rather than being clandestine about it. We need to pay attention to people's body language and see if we can determine what they're communicating by their postures, gestures, and facial expressions. At this time, others will be paying much more attention to what you do and not so much to your appearance. And other people you encounter will reflect back to you both pleasant and not so pleasant aspects of yourself. That's called mirroring. People and animals mirror what's going on inside of us, and our animal companions do so more than any of them. If you have a dog or a cat, that the way they mirror to us is through behavioral or diseases that they take on. They actually will take on a disease for us, and that's part of their sacred contract. They will take on a disease for us so that we won't have to. So when we look at our animal companions and we look at their behavior or their illnesses, then we can look within ourselves and see, what can we do to heal ourselves in order to help heal the animal. Because when we heal our emotions, then that's going to help the animal. Plus we have to help it medically as well. Anybody else have an animal?
Last year, down at my garden, 3 road runners appeared. They'd stand back in a great distance. Look at me, and then by the end of the season, they moved a little closer. Now, last week, 2 road runners appeared, and this one walked up with a 3-foot. I thought, could that thing pack me quite good? But anyway, it was just friendly, and then, I started talking to it, and they have looked like a little cone or something, and when I started speaking, it raised that cone, and every time I go down there, it seems like it's waiting on me. It was so gratifying to see them again, that basically disappeared. And I see a rabbit and things like that, but that roadrunner was just as friendly as he could be. And roadrunners, in my experience, they've always kept their distance. But I guess I did communicate with it.
Right. And see, when an animal does something that unusual, they're definitely trying to get you a message. And it obviously was, you were obviously communicating with it because of the way that it was acting.
Our house is about 100 yards from my vegetable garden is too. And I noticed up at my window that roadrunner's been up there 2 or 3 times, just like it's paying like a dog or something like that. But that was an unusual experience that I had.
Okay, so you want to hear about Roadrunner? Okay.
Sure do.
Okay, it says, if Roadrunner shows up, it means there are situations occurring in your life that require you to think on your feet, change direction quickly, and adapt to the new course, which you are quite capable of doing. This is a great time to make some plans and to put them into action so that you can manifest whatever it is that you want. Be willing to laugh at yourself and not to take your quirks and idiosyncrasies too seriously. Explore and experiment with different ways you can benefit yourself and others spiritually, emotionally, physically, and through the use of sound. Be sure to take care of yourself first before you attempt to take care of others. That way you can be completely present when you're in service to them. Does any of that resonate with you? So you see what the Roadrunner was bringing you? Did you have an animal?
Well, I was going to tell a little story.
Okay.
About 8 years ago when I lived down in East Point, the hummingbirds were coming through and someone was coming in through a little late, and a cold snap that night on the bird feeder. The next morning, one hummingbird was froze. He was dead on the feeder, but I happened to notice in the grass right under it a little flutter. I picked that hummingbird up and just kept it next to me for about an hour. And then about 10 o'clock that morning, kind of warmed up a little bit, got above freezing. He seemed to be fine. I turned him loose and man, he took off. And then since then, I moved in right outside west of town here. This was probably 2 years ago, maybe 2 years ago. I was sitting on the deck by myself, reading the Bible that morning, and a hummingbird comes and lands on my left hand.
Oh, wow.
And stayed there long enough for me to get my phone out, and I took a picture of it. She saw the picture. My daughter, I think, still has the picture.
Wow.
This hummingbird stood on my hand and there was nothing wrong with it. I mean, why he landed on my left hand while I was reading the Bible that morning, and stayed there for a good while.
What were
Then
you
all of a sudden
reading
he
it?
decided-
Where were you reading in the
I
Bible?
don't even remember now. I couldn't tell you to save my life. He stayed there for it seemed like a long time for a hummingbird. Of course, they were all, some of us doing their thing, everything, and he just come over and boop, landed on my hand.
Wow. See, even when we see an animal that's transitioned or died, that's another word for died, is they have transition. They also have meaning. So say you, just like you had the live one, but you also have the dead one. So so what that means is you read, you learn about what the animal's message was, and then transition means change. So it could be physical change. Transition doesn't always mean death. It means a change in your life. You know, we're transitioning from one job to another, or you're moving from one town to another, or there's just going from one relationship to another. That's another way of transitioning from one thing to another. So do you want to know about hummingbird? Okay, so it says if hummingbird shows up, you need to be very flexible with the twists and turns of your life. With the twists and turns your life will take in the next days. Put more emotional sweetness in your life. You need openly express the love you have and feel for those important people in your life. Give yourself the gift as of flowers as you can give. Spread them around your home and enjoy their sight and fragrance throughout the days to come. Anybody else?
Is the owl associated, I've heard that the owl is associated with death, or coming death. Do you know if that's true?
I know Native Americans have that belief.
Sometimes the owl can be very protective. It's not always about death, sometimes it's protection.
Sometimes it's what?
Protection.
And owls are very
I've got a
wise
story
too.
to get through.
No, you go ahead.
this was 2 or 3 years ago, and I was walking the dogs through the woods. There was an owl sitting up, and he watched us. He turned, watched us, went by. When we came back, he turned. Okay, he was there the next day. And then when we turned and went back, he flew with us. And went into the next tree and sat. And then we went on, and he flew to another tree on our path.
So you see how unusual that was?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I had a similar, where I lived before, there was a 1 mile dirt drive getting to the house. And sometimes late in the evening, when I would get home from work and go down that road, it would maybe be dark or dusk, it would come up over my windshield and just soar with my windshield for, I know, a quarter mile or so. I couldn't probably see sometimes. It was right there, a huge wingspan, and just soaring right in front of my car. And it did that several times over the course of about 2 or 3 years.
wow. So we can read about owl. It says if owl shows up, meditate in silence and in darkness for a few minutes each evening for the next few days and see what is revealed to you. So they're bringing you messages. And when we quiet our mind, then that's when the messages can come in. Be alert to any deception on the part of others, whether they're aware of it or not, and look closely behind any guises that they may wear. This is a particularly right period to tap into the fount and into intuitive wisdom that is available to you. We're all intuitive. It's just that we've forgotten how to do it. And so this is a way to tap into that and pay attention more to the little nudges that we get. Remember the gut feelings you get? How many times we didn't listen to them, and then we wish we had? That's your intuition. It says, now is a particular significant time for prophecy, and you will see, hear, or feel events before they actually happen. Your creative cycle now is the night, so set aside time in the evening to work on any projects. Does any of that resonate with you?
Owls will bring you a message.
Pardon me?
I said owls will bring a message.
Yes.
One time we was living in Michigan, and I went to work, and when I went out to get in the car, I heard an owl, which we'd never heard an owl in that area. About lunchtime at work, my dad called and said my aunt up here in Paris, Texas had died. And wanted to know if I could go with them and drive. Another time, we lived in Fort Worth. And there right in town, you never saw a great horned owl. Except one time. And Ellie and I was coming in, just as we was pulling in the driveway, it flew down past the windshield, went up and came back, flew back and landed in the tree. We went in, we just bought a place, we was going to move to Tennessee. We just bought that house. And we moved all her mother's antiques into the house. We went in the house and message on the answer machine was blinking. She called it my niece in Tennessee. They went to check on the house and it had been broke into and everything had taken. And then when my dad died, I heard him out. The night before he died, so I thoroughly believe it.
Yeah, so anytime an animal, even, it could be a ladybug, it could be an ant, it could be a mosquito. Even them, they're bringing us messages as well. Because if you think about a mosquito, what are they? They're a pest, right? And so we swat them and kill them. But we have to think about, if you have a mosquito or a bunch of mosquitoes that are bugging you, what else in your life is bugging you? or if you have fleas on your dogs, what irritations are in your life? Because the fleas are bringing a message. They're using the dog, but they're bringing you a message of showing you what are the irritations that are in your life, what's bugging you. So it's even, everything has a message for us. We just have to learn to look for it.
The ladybug came, I was sitting on the front porch at the apartment with my grandson in my lap, and I noticed he was leaning over, his little finger went like that. There was a ladybug on the arm of the chair, and that was his first ladybug to see. And I got to be there when he saw it.
Yeah, so that's cool. I don't know if bugs are in here or not.
That's his power bug.
Yeah.
His power bug, yeah.
Now, I moved the trailer this afternoon and stirred up a bunch of hornets. I got a big fly swatter. And when they get too close, I swat them, step on them. All of a sudden, boy, the loudest hornet I ever heard come buzzing by, and I stopped just before I nailed that hummingbird.
You want to hear about ladybug?
Yeah.
It says, if it alights on you, make a wish and your wish will be granted. Structure a time each day where you can pray or meditate in silence and solitude. Something you thought was lost and gone will be making its way back into your life. Mother Mary is with you to guide you and console you no matter what religious or spiritual orientation is. You're shielded and protected from irritations, pestering thoughts, or annoying behaviors from others. So, I mean, it's pretty amazing when you think about it. And, the Native Americans, I mean, that was their life. They lived and moved and worked with the animals. And when it came time to kill them in order for sustenance for themselves, they honored the animal and thanked it for the sacrifice that it does. People don't do that anymore. And so the animals are really wanting us to connect with them and to help them so that we can help put the earth, get her back into balance, because she's way out of balance. And the only way we can do it, every single one of us in our own private life can do something to help Mother Earth, whether it's just going down the street and, when you go to pick up your mail and people are dropping trash and stuff, if we pick it up, Mother Nature, she's really happy about that. So, and she'll provide blessings because you took the time to bend over and pick up that piece of trash.
And what is that the small book, the
This
name
one-
and title of that?
This one is the Pocket Guide to Spirit Animals. It's
By who?
Dr. Stephen
Stephen
Farmer.
Farmer.
Any other questions?
What about squirrels?
Squirrels?
I had lots of them around me.
Do you?
Yeah.
My dad took a squirrel and it was falling out of a tree. His mother got hit by a car when I was just well running. We raised that squirrel. It slept with me and my sister.
Oh, cool.
It was a pretty cool pet, I
Yeah.
thought. I don't know if my mother thought that.
Okay, it says if squirrel shows up, get ready for coming changes by lightening your load, clearing out and giving away any goods or material possessions that no longer serve you. The best way to deal with the challenging situation that's before you is to confront it head on and to be totally honest with your feelings and thoughts.
I'm plain stuff, okay.
Be extra vigilant and cautious right now, and be willing to avoid or escape any threatening situations. Prepare for the future by gathering and storing extra food, water, clothing, candles, and money for possible later use. Although you're actively and aggressively pursuing your goals right now, you need to balance this pursuit with more socializing and play. So when you look up the messages, you just look what's going on in your life. Go back like 3-4 days and see what was going on in your life. And then see how the message resonates with you or not. But you definitely resonated with some of it.
Oh, yeah.
So, any other questions? I want to thank you for allowing me to present this to you. And animals are my life. I mean, I can't imagine not being with an animal, and I've got tons of them at home. But now that I'm learning to, like I said, each of us have the ability to, we're born with it. We're born with the intuitive gifts to speak to animals, to connect more deeply with them. We're all have the abilities of being clairvoyant or have that inner knowing or clairaudience. But what happens is as we have them when we're kids, we're born with it. But then as we grow up, our parents are saying, oh, that's just kid stuff. The fairy tales and all that stuff, that's all just poo-pooed away. And pretty soon we have to grow up and be an adult, even as a kid. But in reality, what happens is our gifts get closed down. And then some of us have what's referred to as awakening, and it's like a remembering. All of a sudden we start to get this itch, and we don't know why. But so now some of us are trying to remember what it is that we were born, what we came in with.
You know, an animal develops a jealousy, well, an animal, a horse, a dog, or a livestock, they develop a jealousy just like a human being.
Yes, they have emotions just like we do. And see, this was the other thing too, is I had animals. I was raised with a dog, and I had gerbils and hamsters and fish and parakeets and stuff. But I was never taught that animals have emotions. And I've learned that over the last couple of years too. Because of the other work that I do. I do energy medicine as well. And there was a cat, the lady had a cat that was sick, and so she asked me to do a session for her. And I kept getting these messages, I kept getting these emotions. The modality I was learning is called the emotion code, so it has all to do with emotions. And so I was asking her these questions, and she kept coming up with emotions like unsupported, lost, and fear, and all of this. And I'm going, whoa, I know this cat has a good home. I know that she's loved by her mom. Why is she telling me that she's, all of these emotions? Her name was Samantha. She's transitioned now, but so I really hesitated writing her mom what came up for me. It was like, I don't know if I should trust this, because I was just learning the modality. But I did, and about an hour after I did, she had posted on Facebook that the cat had been lost in Katrina. So she felt unsupported because people think cats can take care of themselves. And she was afraid. And she was lost. So it was like, whoa, now I understand. Animals have emotions, just like we do. Yeah. They hurt just like we do.
Do you have a Facebook page for this topic or a website or something, Cathy?
I don't yet. I'm still trying to decide what I want to be when I grow up. I'm not ready to just spring out there yet. Probably by the end of this year, think I should have something, because I've learned all these modalities, and now I'm able to do intuitive readings for people. But there's still another thing that's missing that I'm not sure how to package it yet for people. But so no, not yet.
You mentioned you were also into energy medicine. That's probably a whole nother topic for another meeting, but what, can you just tell us, in a sentence or two, what is energy medicine?
Energy medicine is a way to tap in to our bodies to learn what the imbalances are, what's creating the imbalance within our body. So just like the animals are giving us messages, our bodies are giving us messages as well. When we have a headache, when we get a cold, when our knee hurts, these are all messages from our body. And a lot of times we think, oh, I tripped, so I hurt my knee. But when we get into it, when we connect with your subconscious mind, most likely that knee pain goes back to maybe your childhood. And the other thing too with emotions is we can also inherit them, genetically inherit them. So that's really interesting.
Does that mean we inherit personalities too?
Each soul has its own personality, but you can inherit the emotion. Say if you had, well, for me, I'll give you an example. I had pain in my back, and I had an intuitive, a medium, a reader tell me that this was caused by a betrayal of, it was on my dad's side, went back 7 generations, of an ancestor that was betrayed. And I was feeling it in my back. So once I was able to clear it, then it went away.
So whether we're optimistic or pessimistic, things like that, is that an emotion or a personality?
That's more personality. What anger is an emotion.
Okay.
Frustration is an emotion. Love is an emotion.
Talking about emotion and inheriting. My son has inherited my emotional, like, he's very tender-hearted, and he shows his emotions, while
Right.
he's sad or whatever, he shows those.
Yeah. Which is unusual for males, because males have been taught that to be tough. You're not allowed to cry, and so they have the inability to nurture because they can't be tender, they can't cry, they can't hug, you got to be a tough macho guy. So that's very cool. And his heart's very big.
Are we going to talk about how our animals communicate with us?
Pardon me?
Are we going to talk about how our animals communicate with us?
How they communicate with us? Well, there's different ways that they can. It's just like the messages that the animals can bring to us. It's learning to decipher the meaning of what the animal is.
I have just plain Patsy. I've had it 10 years. And we talk all the time. And she could be chattering away, and I said, "What do you want?" "Well, you want a treat." So she jumps up on the sofa arm, and I have to sit down, not close to the arm, but a little distance away. Okay, she's been awake for a long time. She stretches off of this arm, and she comes, bumps my arm, comes and make a complete circle, gets back up on the arm, stretches again, and then she's ready for the treat. And it goes on all day long. And I have extremely dry skin, so I wear a lot of hand lotion. And if I'm going somewhere, I wear fragrant hand lotion. "Don't touch me, Mama. I don't like odors."
She doesn't like it.
I don't like odors. Don't burn a candle, please.
Oh, she's real sensitive to scents, huh?
Mhm. And,
So you are getting her messages. You are getting her messages.
yes.
Right.
And if I'm eating breakfast, I usually open the back door so I can see out. And she comes to the table and she's talking to me, and I said, "Are you ready to go out?" And of course, to me, she says yes. And she walks to the door. Out we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, they understand.
They do understand. And like an animal communicator, it's harder to read our own animals, you know, to communicate with them, to ask them a question and find out what's going on with them. What I've learned over the last 2 years is how our animals mirror our inner landscape. And it could be any animal. I'll give you a story. This is my own story. Last year was really, really tough for me. And I got animal messages left and right. We have 3 dogs, 3 cats now. I've got my sheep, turkeys, guineas, chickens. And last December, well, let me back up. Back in November, I was working with a mentor in regards to my relationship with my daughter, and which is not good. And so anyways, we've been working on it for months, and in December, right about between Christmas and New Year's, one of my ewes got this huge knot on the side of her face. I mean, it was huge, about the size of a tennis ball, and it was hard. But I couldn't see, like maybe she got a piece of hay stuck in there, you know, and it created a wound. Couldn't see anything. So I was treating her for it. And then I got some herbs from Alaska, and I was treating her with those. And it was this had gotten smaller, and then there was just like an abscess. And I tried to drain the abscess, and I couldn't get anything out. And so I was having a telephone conversation with my mentor, and so this was about 3 weeks into it, and I've been treating her daily, twice a day for this. And it was on a Sunday, and I had a 2-hour conversation with my mentor, and we were talking about my daughter, and I talked about releasing my daughter, letting her go. When I went out to check on my ewe, the abscess on her face had broke open. And it was bloody, it was stinky, it was disgusting. But when I thought about my relationship with my daughter, it was exactly the same way. So there's a message from a sheep.
What about the other way around? To what degree do animals understand us as humans?
They understand us way more than we realize. When I have readings for myself, our animals know. In fact, my ewe Mosa knew about the relationship about my daughter. And when she found out that I had released my daughter, she was really happy about it. So they know everything about us, whether it's a sheep, a dog, or a cat, or a bird. They know about us.
Well, I know she can aggravate me a lot of times, and a real strong voice, and I point my finger, hush, hush, and she'll hush and read.
Right.
But then the expression on her face, she's not happy.
But so when she's doing that, when she's being aggravating to you like that, look about what in your life is aggravating you. Because that's what she's trying to show you. Okay? So anytime there's a behavior that is, something like that that's irritating, look at what's irritating you, what's frustrating to you, what's aggravating you. Does that make sense?
Yes, definitely.
So she is. So see how she's communicating with you? some people can actually hear things, I can't. But not yet. I'm going to though. I plan on it.
You know, everyone cannot communicate with an animal. I think it takes a special person. My wife, we had a dog not a few years ago. It's deceased now, but anyway, that dog knew just what she was thinking.
Exactly.
If for instance, it's time to go, I said, if she'd stand up, the dog would run over to the door or something like that. They had an understanding that I've never seen happen like that before. But I have a pretty good understanding of cattle with cattle. So, like when you talk about jealousy, a while ago, I know I got this one cow and go out and feed the other and pet these other cows, and that tail would walk up behind me and hit me in the rear. And you're nodding down. It's a form of jealousy, really.
Yeah.
But I think I can communicate with livestock relatively well. Of course, smaller animals like dogs and cats. Better understand, live closer with them.
They can communicate with each other just fine.
Yeah, but see.
We don't understand it.
Well, we're not taking the time to try and understand it. But do you see how your dog is trying to give you a message?
Wouldn't anybody else have this cat? I raised her on wearing a harness. And,
That's unusual.
and I have a leash, of course. And
If you can,
she will not eat anything except for indoor form of cat food. She will not eat any kind of meat, any kind of canned cat food. It's strictly pure indoor. But she loves green grass, and that's the reason I put her in a harness. So I could lead her to along the fence line in the wintertime when the big leaves cover up the grass. It's still grows. And I could lead her out to the fence if she knew that that's where the grass was.
That's cool.
And I would walk her down the sidewalk. We would stop traffic.
But see, it's just like for those of us that have dogs, and we're going to go on a trip, and several days before we even go on the trip, the animal knows about it.
Right.
You can't. They're you can't fool them.
I start to go out.
To protect it.
Protect it.
And guide it. People need to learn from animals.
It was amazing,
It is amazing. There's so many YouTubes on there about animals that do amazing things for other animals. Is there any other questions?
It's interesting.
Most animals, if you just talk in a calm voice and don't get them excited, you can get along with just about any of them. When we lived in Tennessee, we had about a half-acre pond, and I had a big pond built around it. I had a dam between them. I kept it mowed just like the yard, the dam and everything, and it's almost like a park. Every year, this Canadian geese, male, female, come in and they made a nest on the dam, right there in the curve. And they make their nest, have the little ones, and one time I got to see the hen fly off with the little ones on her back. I'd always heard it, and I saw it one time. But from the time they first come in, within 3 days they'd have the nest built, and she would lay eggs. Well, as soon as they come in, I'd go over and I'd talk to them geese, and I could walk right up to them.
Wow.
And I'd talk to them. And she always started in the middle of the dam. And I'd make her move over so I could mow. And I could mow right past her when she's sitting on the nest. And that gander, he would just get excited a little bit, but I was the only one that could go on the dam.
Yeah. So that's a-
Anybody else start over on that dam, that gander would come a flogging and raising Cain, and he would not let anybody within 20 yards of that nest. One year, we were gone, we come in, the nest is right in the middle of the dam, it's got 3 eggs in it. She's sitting on it, I walk over and I got on her case. I said, how many times have I told you, and I picked the nest up, moved it over to the side. Well, she got off the nest. I moved the nest over, she got back on, and everything was fine.
Wow.
And, but I was the only one that could go out on that dam until them young ones came along.
That's cool. See, even spiders, I don't kill spiders in my house. I just tell them, you leave me alone, I'm gonna leave you alone. And they do. Most people are gonna step on the spider. I'll take them outside if I can,
They
but,
couldn't get out of the dam.
yeah.
How about snakes?
Snakes, I don't bother, I'll pick up a snake except for a poisonous one, but I have moved snakes too. And snakes also have to do with transformation, because, or shedding of the old ways. When you think about a snake, how they shed their skin. So if we're in a position in our life where we're shedding our old ways and creating new things in our life, then a snake may cross your path, to show you that this is coming for you. I have a healthy respect for snakes.
I do too. I'm scared of them.
But I have moved lots of snakes, out of my... One day I went out there and there was a snake full of baby guineas. It had eaten like 6 of my baby guineas. So we just moved it.
I don't have snakes. I have cats live across the street from me. They take care of all the snakes. I've never seen a snake since I've been in that house 4 years.
Roadrunners will kill snakes too.
What?
Roadrunners will
Oh,
kill
okay.
snakes. Guineas will kill snakes.
Cats definitely.
We had there's 60 acres next to us, and they had started logging it, and they were running the snakes over onto our property, and that's why we were having so much trouble. And that year, I had my turkey hens in a coop down from the house, and with their babies. And I'd go out there, and everybody would be fine. I'd go out there later, and babies would be just dead. And come to find out, it was a copperhead that was biting the babies, but it was too small to eat them. But so my husband tried to catch it, and it got away. But so he came in for lunch, and we went back out, and the turkeys got it. Picked it right behind the head. So that ended that. So, any other questions? Thank you.
We have a Weimaraner on the farm.
You have what?
Weimaraner.
Oh, Weimaraner, huh?
And he loves the cows. When the cows come up on the hill by the house, he goes up there and lays down with all the cows. You make a quick glance right there, you don't know which is dog and which is cat.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at animals, how they interact with each other, our barn cat goes out there and she's, the sheep will come up to her and she plays with them and they're wagging their tail at her and animals will interact. Humans just really need to learn from animals. Interspecies, animals are so much better examples of how to get along with one another.
Even bees, like, if you don't show any fear of bees, now in life I can stand up, a hive and just stand there. I don't have a fear of them, so they don't sting me. But when I used to show a fear of them, I I think the body gives off a certain scent that,
Yeah.
well, I guess we learn to communicate with
And if you just, let the bee know or let the animal know that you're not there to hurt it, just talk to it, just like you talk to your cat, or your dog or whatever you have. They understand.
Yeah, my dog understands me better than I want her to. She really does.
Appreciate the, this has been very, very interesting.
Anybody want to look at these books?